It's time for the 2015 Tiki and Tierney NFL Training Camp Two-A-Days as we visit all 32 NFL camps to preview the upcoming season. Carolina Panthers, 7-8-1, NFC South Division champions.
3 in the pattern. Here's a throw, end zone. Benjamin jump ball, caught, bobbled, caught again, touchdown.
That's just Benjamin being taller than Trufant, because Trufant was actually in great position for the interception, and he just got out-jumped, out-timed by the bigger Benjamin on that play.
The Panthers won their second straight NFC South title and even won a playoff game, despite being just the second team in NFL history to make the postseason with a losing record. The team rewarded former #1 overall pick Cam Newton with a large extension, but the franchise QB is not focusing on the money.
I've never been the type to, compare and contrast wages, more so comparing and contrast the most important stat of all of sports, and that's wins and losses. I know I'm nowhere where I want to be right now, but yet, that gives me even more drive to get to where I want to be. Sooner rather than later.
The team parted ways with talented yet troubled defensive lineman Greg Hardy, but linebacker Luke Kuechly is still one of the best in the business. Does Newton have enough weapons around him to lead the Panthers to a third consecutive division crown?
You can make the case even with Benjamin he might not have had enough. And, we play that because it sounds really when you hear Benjamin touchdown, it paints an enthusiastic picture because he was so good.
Yep.
Now delete that from your mind and realize that he's gone for the entire season. Clearly a monster blow and very dispiriting. Not just for Panther fans, for football fans. You never want to see that. So what do they do next? Let's talk to Frank Garcia, who was on WFNZ. I believe. Remember when I went out to do the Johnny's Big Dance?
Oh, yeah.
It's where I did my show from.
Oh, get out of here.
Yeah, that's where I was doing my show from, yeah. In Charlotte, former Panthers offensive lineman. Big Frank, how are you today, buddy? Tiki and Tierney.
I'm doing great, guys. Thanks for having me, Tiki and Brandon. I mean, this is a depressing sound to have the music that you guys just played in the intro, but it's going to be challenging for this team to get past Kelvin Benjamin for sure.
Yeah, it almost sounds like we're going from a wedding to a funeral pretty quick. A different, very different tone. I'm with you. And Tiki lived this, you live this. We lean on it as sportscasters. We say, next man up. But, that only goes so far when the next man up is not even remotely within the skill set of the guy who went down. Demoralizing. This just has to be a crusher right to the gut, man.
Yeah, it is, and this team is going to have to find a way to rebound. There's no doubt about it. It's hard to replace, the targets and the talent that you had in the red zone in particular. You have a big guy, 6'5", 6'6", 240 pounds, that was looking to be, a big part of this offense. Cam Newton hasn't really been given the weapons that maybe he's needed to surround him, and that was one of the things that you're really looking for, the growth, with him stepping up and being one of those targets for him this year.
What can you tell us about Devin Funchess, who is going to be tasked in some ways to replace, even though you can't really replace Kelvin Benjamin, but to take that slot?
It's a great question, and it's one of the things that are unknown here with the Panthers because, Tiki, you know as well as I do, when you're in the club, it's hard to make the club.
Right.
And he's been in the tub for way too long. This is a great opportunity for him to maybe get some of those quality reps and develop some of that chemistry now that Kelvin's gone and maybe taking over a different role as the #1 receiver. But he's been a little nicked up with the hamstring, and it's difficult when he's not getting those reps that maybe he needs to be getting out there and developing in this preseason.
Yeah, Frank, this will be a test of leadership, both from the head coach and most importantly from the quarterback. What's Cam Newton? What's he saying? What's his stance now that he's lost his biggest target?
I think Cam gets a bad rap a lot of times. We look at him as a traditional quarterback a lot of times, and I think a lot of people evaluate him that way. If we stop taking that and looking at him that way and maybe look at him more as a weapon that you have as a tool to use on the offense, he's a guy that has really evolved as that. As a leader, I think he's evolved. He's matured. He's gone through some things. And this is no doubt his team, and I think he's saying all of the right things. He's doing all the right things. And this team is going to go as Cam Newton does, in particular on the offensive side.
We're talking to Frank Garcia, who was a former lineman for the Panthers, and he's with us here on CBS Sports Radio. He does a show out there in Charlotte as well, WFNZ. and we're previewing the Panthers. You know, listen, Frank, we can do a 10-minute spot and paint it entirely negative. So let's at least accentuate a couple of positives. Number one, the defense is phenomenal. Number two, the division's very shaky. Do you think the Falcons did enough? And we'll get to the Saints, I guess, as well. Did the Falcons do enough to close that gap? Are they viable in terms of winning the division or not yet?
Yeah, I think they are. Anytime you insert a new head coach, he's going to bring a little bit of energy and excitement and enthusiasm. And on the defensive side in particular, I think that's a lot easier to invoke compared to the offensive side. Getting after it, doing those type of things where you're going to have a little bit more tempo and maybe even blitzing a little bit more and being more aggressive on that side of the football is something that a head coach can bring, and that attitude can be a little bit different right out the gate. So offensively, Julio Jones being healthy is a big factor for them. Matt Ryan and Roddy White, even though he's getting older, they have the talent offensively to compete with anybody, especially at that wide receiver position. But defensively has been their key to lack of success. And let's be honest, I mean, the Panthers weren't that much further apart from them. It came down to the last game, and the Panthers, because of the defense, were able to pull it out, and because of an emerging offensive line and run game, were able to take advantage of that porous defense. So I think the gap is lessened a little bit with the loss of Kelvin Benjamin, but the Falcons are going to be a formidable opponent. What
do you think about the Saints seemingly going less vertical, more in your face, more in the trenches? Is that a smart move?
I'm not a big believer in the Saints. When you lose Jimmy Graham and Junior Gillette, two of your best players on the offensive and defensive side, I don't know how you got better. They have a young, talented wide receiver, there, and obviously Sean Payton and Drew Brees are two guys that are always in the equation with the way that they throw the ball. But why would you want to go to a weakness and compare to a strength and your quarterback and lean on that? So I think it's maybe a way to disguise or put a Band-Aid over some of their weaknesses. But I think you always have to rely on Drew Brees to go out there and throw the ball and put your ball in the best player's hand.
Yeah, you look a little bit at the defensive side, and BT mentioned it. Luke Kuechly is obviously a superstar, and Thomas Davis is no slouch as well. Shaq Thompson, who was a first-round draft pick, the secondary is young. Are they going to be a liability at all, or are they going to continue to build on what they started to do last year?
I think Peanut Tillman is going to be a big advantage to this defense. Roman Harper is getting up there in years. Josh Norman has had a tremendous training camp down here, and he can emerge as one of the top cornerbacks in this league. Tillman on the other side is going to be, obviously, like I said, a good addition. Hopefully it will be opportunistic turning the ball over. But the front seven, when healthy, can be as good as anybody in the league, even though they lost Greg Hardy. Luke Kuechly is, I think, the best, obviously J.J. Watt, but right there behind him, maybe one of the most impactful players at that position, because he can go sideline to sideline, he can rush the passer, and he can also cover in the passing game. So they have a lot of talent on this defense, and bringing a guy like Shaq Thompson, could bring another dynamic with the blitz and things like that, some youth. But they're going to have to win a lot of games relying on their defense and hopefully being opportunistic, turning the ball over.
Good stuff, Frank. Frank Garcia, WFNZ in Charlotte, played for the Panthers, O-lineman. Hey, thank you, and best to DJ Stout. We'll talk soon, man.
No problem, guys. Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Frank.
Be well. They got a nice studio out there.
Did they?
Yeah, man. Really nice.
They do it right down in Cackalack.
They hooked it up. They hooked it up.
North Cackalack.
Check it out.